So today our topic is what you focus on, you can become. What you absorb your consciousness in, you can become. So these teachings are not mine. This is the teaching of our lineage. And when we do our invocations before the lecture, we always pray to our lineage of all realized masters that they bless us so that we can come to understanding of this truth. Okay, I hope everyone can hear properly. So, what you absorb your consciousness in, what you focus on, you can become. Parents teach their children from childhood how to act, what to do, and children also have their own personalities, but they go and get educated, and then parents may tell them, become a doctor. You should become a doctor. Why? They want their kids to be able to be successful, to make money, to be able to live nicely. So then they may go for many years of study to become a doctor. Right? Some notes, main points. Right? So imagine you go for 15 years to become a doctor. What happens? What happens? You study the theory, first theory. And first, even before theory, there's primary education. Right? Your parents don't tell you that you should, just learn primary knowledge and then never become anything. From childhood, everyone's talking about becoming. What do you want to be when you grow up? I heard that many, many times. Hey, little kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a princess. I want to be a cowboy, culturally conditioned. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Next level of evolution. Princess and cowboy is more archetypical desires. And then you come more into a physical reality where you need to figure out how to maintain your material life. So your parents think if you do this, if doctors didn't make as much money as they did, then they might tell you you should become a janitor if that position was what got more money. But the point is here that you develop general knowledge, gyan, then you start developing specialized knowledge. In theory, you'll study medical text theory, and then they'll also start giving you some practices, how to dissect frogs, look at its organs. And then, you go to more and more refined forms of specialized instruction, and then field practice, and then apprenticeship with a mentor. Then you can become a nurse or a surgeon assistant, depending on what field. Because in the beginning, you think in a generalized way, I'll become a doctor. But there's thousands of variations of that field. Are you going to be a toe doctor or a brain doctor or a heart doctor or, mental health doctor? But whatever kind of practitioner you want to become, it takes focused study. It takes focus, it takes attention. The more specialized a field you want to enter, the more you need to focus. The more advanced you want to get, the more you have to focus. And then one day, you finally get your degree, your medical degree, your license to practice, and you become a doctor. And for 20 years of your life, you focused on that. And then for the next part of your life, you get to be it. So what you focus on, you can become. I'm not saying you will, but you can. Right? What you focus on, you can become. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna recommends you to focus on Him, not just Himself, but to take shelter of His devotees and the gurus and the practice so that you can come to a divine nature and come to Him, be with Him. But he says you should focus on me with love so that you will be with me in love. And those who focus on me in an impersonal way, as energy, as all omnipresent spirit, without love, can enter a dimension where they also become impersonal and lose their identity. And some people desire that because it sounds like freedom from suffering, which it is, but it is not, as we've heard, the all-abundant, all-blissful, ever-expanding experience of love with the soul experiencing the bliss of the infinite soul, which is achieved when you focus on God with love, aspiring for a loving relationship. Right? Ananyashchintayanto mam ye jana paryupashate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham. Krishna says now, what you focus on you can become, but it is not just by your power of focus, it's by my power of grace. Krishna said He rewards all activities. He is the only object of ultimate worship, and He is the ultimate rewarder of all activities. So who is it that is making it possible for you to become a doctor? It is God, fulfilling your desires. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kamam. He alone can fulfill all desires. This is the Vedanta. He is the one eternal being amongst all eternal beings. He is the original consciousness from whom comes infinite particles of consciousness, each living soul. But only He can fulfill your desires. So it's not just what you focus on, but it's how you focus on it. It's not just what, it's how. That's called the abhideya, the process. Understand? That's why we talk about activity and intention. What is your intention? Two people can be performing the same activity and get a completely different result according to their intention, according to their desire. So Krishna says, Mamanusmara yuddhacha, meditating upon me, do your duties in life. But he says, if you really want to absorb yourself in me, do it with love, because that awakens a relationship of love with the Supreme Being, which is the most magical experience known to existence. Now, there are many different ways to become a lover of God and to be with God, just like there are many kinds of doctor. Yes? God is one, but He is not limited as we are in the conditioned state. So God appears as Ram, and you can focus on Lord Ram with love and then enter a relationship with Lord Ram in love, according to the nature of that dimension of His reality, where He is Lord and He is King, and you are subject, and you love Him and He loves you. But it lacks the intimacy of the dimension of Krishna, where He is not Lord and King, but He is lover, he is son, he is friend. And there's no sense of godhood even there. He forgets his position as the Godhead because he prefers the intimate sweetness of loving relationships with his associates. Okay? So what kind of doctor do you want to become? You have to refine. First, develop some general knowledge. What is the nature of that spiritual reality? What is the nature of God in this world? What is the nature of my soul? What is the process to advance, develop general fields of knowledge? And then, as you advance, you can develop some special interests. You can major in something. But the main thing is to focus. Consciousness is of power. Your consciousness is a power. And it has the power to manifest its reality. Not in a materialistic way like we think of, oh, just meditate on money and it'll appear. But if you meditate on it and you do the work, you can make money appear in your life. How do you do it? Go get a job. Okay? And focus on making money. And focus on not spending as much money. What is your goal? Do you want to make a lot of money or do you want to buy a lot of things? For those whose goal is money, job is the means, or some, rob a bank, There's many ways you can try. We don't recommend robbing a bank because it's not the best means, because it's unjust, unethical, and the law of karma can imprison you in this life or the next as a reaction. You have to earn what you get. If you didn't earn it, you don't deserve it. Okay? But you can also figure out a way to make your 1 hour of time worth $1,000. If you really, really want money that bad, then find, all right, what are the jobs in this world or the businesses in this world that can make the most money in the shortest amount of time? That's not unjust. There are unethical ways of making money, and we don't recommend them. But if you're doing it in an ethical way, supply and demand, the laws of capitalism, but it should be regulated and you will be taxed, because if you collect too much, you should give it to people who don't have opportunity to do that. The point here is that what you focus on, you can achieve by the power of your consciousness and by the power of God's grace. And he says in the Gita that I reciprocate and I reward according to your desires. Actually, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifice. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam. I am the enjoyer of the austerity of every sacrifice. That means I am the one who rewards the austerity performed by any practitioner in any kind of sacrifice. The sacrifice of schooling, the sacrifice of working, I alone can fulfill that. So the power of the divine consciousness and the power of your finite consciousness aligned can manifest your desires. So what do you want? Right? What do you want? So we learn from our gurus to develop our desire, our goal in spiritual life. And once we develop our goal, now there's an interesting process of this. Our Gurudev would call it almost like I don't want to use the wrong term, a natural attractive force where like attracts like. So if you have a guru, it's in a simple way, it's a very obvious thing. If you have a guru who's always talking about becoming, a lover of Krishna in Vrindavan, made to Sri Radha to experience her love for Krishna and serve them together as the divine couple, then that will attract people who want that. If you have a guru who's always talking about defeating the demons and defeating the atheists and cutting off their heads and establishing, the theocratic state on earth, then people attracted to that will come. And they will, according to the Guru's instructions, the power of speech, the power of intention, the power of focus, they can create a global jihad to conquer the world and establish a theocratic state where everyone has to do exactly what they do or be damned to their sword. And I'm not speaking of any particular religion. I'm talking about an archetype. But people attracted to that Guru's teachings will say, that sounds great. World conquest in the name of God sounds fantastic. Right? What could be a funner game if you like playing video games where you get to shoot people? Right? So you can see what a guru speaks about will attract people who want that kind of thing. And who are those kind of people? They're going to be the people who is their nature to be attracted to that kind of thing. Right? It's not like one day you decide to become a sociopath. There's a joke. What's the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath? Like one is like wants to hurt themselves and one wants to hurt everybody else. So I don't know the details. I don't even know what those terms exactly mean. But the point is, what do we focus on? That's the point. What does the guru focus on? What do the students focus on? It's focus in life that's important. If you want to achieve any good results, focus. And our guru would say that people have a nature. Now, there's two sides of this because people have a temporary nature and temporary desires. It's a very interesting topic, right? You would say, like a young girl would be more attracted to be a maid of Sri Radha and experience her love with Krishna and be a lover of Radha because it's more like her nature. But that's an acquired nature that is transitory. That's why this is not a sex or gender-based topic. You can be a male with a different spiritual attraction. You can be a female who wants to be a cowherd friend of Krishna as a boy. You can have a male who wants to be a maid of Sri Radha. But we should also understand that this should not be prematurely focused on because the initial focus needs to be that I'm not this body, that I am spirit soul. Because then you think, well, I am a girl, so I need to become a girl in the spiritual world. I'm a boy, so I need to become a boy in the spiritual world. But that boy-girlhood is temporary. And the soul is neither boy nor girl. The soul is consciousness and bliss and existence. Okay? So first, our gurus teach you that you're not this body. And they don't prematurely tell you, meditate on becoming a gopi, a gopa, or an associate of Ram, and so on and so forth. They don't do premature, manifestation through induced mental absorption. But as you advance and you purify your heart and your consciousness through the practice of bhakti, then a desire may begin to awaken. It's a natural process. And different gurus will have different fields of the service they perform. So our guru, they would say, if you're looking for becoming one with God, then I am not your guru. I'm not the right guru for you. If you want to merge in the light, because that's not my practice. That's not what I offer. And so some people, now this, on the conditioned stage, these desires can transfer, can change. Because the nature of material life it's transitory. Right? So one day I want to be one with God, and the next day I want to be a lover of God. It evolves. Right? So it's hard to understand what is the fully evolved state versus what is a temporary state. Yes? therefore we say you should try to purify your consciousness. This is a general recommendation for practitioners of any Eastern tradition. Endeavor to purify your consciousness, to learn to observe and then focus your thoughts, and to come to a higher platform than just materially attached bondage to samsara. And as you begin to purify yourself, Cheto Dharpana Marjanam, Lord Chaitanya says, then the mirror of the heart will be cleansed. And as it's becoming cleansed, you'll start to get some, like a misty recognition of your real desire. Right? I want to be this. And as you continue to cleanse the mirror of your heart, the mirror of your consciousness, then at the final stage, you can actually realize your form, your relationship with God, with Krishna. So it's that process that we focus on here. Our focus is serving people. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. Our mission is to serve people on their journey from wisdom to spiritual experience. And our specific field of focus is to taste the bliss of pure love of God in a personal relationship. And that is in the realm of Vrindavan, where Krishna is not in the position of the Godhead. He is the God of all gods. And at the same time, he has delegated that post of the administration of the universes so that he can relish the love of his associates, his beloveds, be with them. And if you wish to enter that abode, you have to focus on it. In the beginning of our focus on Krishna and Vrindavan, you can meditate on him in all his different pastimes. This is what our gurus teach. If you study the Srimad Bhagavatam, this gives you general knowledge of the soul and of God and of this world, the nature of this world, the manifestation of the universes, the passing of time, the ages of man, the kings and great sages, the great devotees and their prayers, the incarnations of God. And as you develop further, it develops more of a focus. In the 10th canto, it spends 90 chapters on the pastimes of Lord Krishna. And the first section is on his pastimes in Vrindavan. The later section is on his pastimes in Dwarka, Mathura. And if you desire association with Krishna in the opulent pastimes, you focus on the pastimes in Dwarka, where he is present as a great king, a great prince, a great leader, a great family man. And if you want to focus specifically on the sweet pastimes of Vrindavan, you focus on his association with his intimate circle of friends, with his parents, with his mother, with the cowherders, with the gopis, gopas, and you focus. Right? You develop general knowledge of reality. What is the nature of reality? Everyone wants to understand this. What is the nature of the universe? How does it come into being? How does time pass? What are the different ages? What are the histories? What is the nature of reality? You want to come to an understanding. People want that. So that understanding is provided. When people become satisfied with an understanding, then their consciousness continues to evolve and they want more than an understanding. They want an experience. And so we give them general knowledge of reality, then we give them specialized fields of instruction with particular paths that you can aim at the fruition of. Some people say all paths lead to the same destination, but that's an impersonal mindset, which in our philosophy isn't so. Because our guru would say, how can all paths lead to the same destination? If you get in a car and you drive in this direction, you go that way. If you go in this direction, you go to different destinations. Serious. You can go from here, you can go east and go to New York City, or you can go west and go to Boston. Not Boston, sorry. See? Buffalo. Right? You can go 2 hours, 1 hour 30, 40 to Manhattan, east, or you can go west, 6 hours to Buffalo. Or you can go 50 hours to Los Angeles. Or you can get a plane and go to India in 14 hours from JFK. Or you can get a boat and go on a cruise to the Fiji Islands. What is your desire? You can get there. So to say that all paths lead to the same destination it's a sweet oversimplification which misleads people. Our Guru would say, for example, he would give the case of Hawaii. And he would say, if you want to go to Hawaii, you can't go by car. There's not even a pathway by car to get to Hawaii. You have to get on a plane, and you have to get on a plane that is going to Hawaii. And some people also say that everything ultimately is one, and if you're in a plane and you go high enough, everything looks like one. But when you come back down, it's not one. So he says it's a imperfection of your senses, that your sight is not potent enough to see the diversity. So you look at a city like New York City and you fly high enough and it just looks like one big landmass. But it never loses its distinction, its variety. And as you come back down, you again see that variety. So all paths do not lead to the same destination, because that's not the nature of God. The nature of God is that he fulfills your desires. If you focus on them intently enough, really want it, and he allows that. And ultimately, Krishna's realm can only be attained by his grace. He can only be realized by his own desire. You cannot realize God by your power, because he is transcendental and we are conditioned. But if you desire it, he can reveal himself. If you desire it with devotion, he will reveal himself. So that's why we practice devotion, bhakti yoga. So as you meditate on Krishna and his pastimes, see, this is another thing. If you aspire for the path of bhakti in the realm of Vrindavan, which is our field of focus, right? Then you don't just meditate on Krishna. That's not the process. Each path of aspiration has a process, and we understand that process by studying the teachings of those sages who have revealed the way for us to attain that position. So in our path of bhakti yoga, we focus on the teachings of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and so on, Srila Jiva Goswami, and the saints in our line, our gurus, our lineage, how they reveal this truth to us. That's called Amnaya, the revealed scriptures in disciplic succession. I want to talk to you something a little bit about two more things in this line of focus. How do you know if this is real? Right? Is that a good topic? How do you know if this is real? I haven't seen the spiritual world. You've seen the spiritual world? Anyone seen the spiritual world? How do you know if it's real? And where do these so-called revealed scriptures come from? Is this a big, cosmic ship in the sky that we're talking about entering? It is real, and that reality is seen by the realized sages. And it's written down by their followers who have seen their teachers in the state of bliss and the miracles that have occurred. And also, not just is that spiritual dimension real, but the histories of the avatars that appear on this earth and perform their transcendental activities also shows its veracity. So there's two ways. Now you can say, oh, but I wasn't there when Krishna was born on earth. I wasn't there when Ram was born on earth. I haven't seen it in this life. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. Right? Krishna, that spiritual reality, appears on the material plane in specific time periods and specific places. that spiritual reality appears on the material plane. And that is God's mercy so that he can show us his abode, his nature, and give us his teachings and how to be with him. And we see all human civilizations have a theistic, there will always be a theistic element within human civilization. And that is by design. There will always be theism. And people will always be arguing about it. That's not our focus either. We're not especially focused on arguing with atheists about the reality of God. The reality of God is something that we experience, our teachers have experienced, our gurus experience, and they taste this bliss of pure love of God in their lives, and they're very happy, right? Before we end to this class, I want to talk a little bit about the details of our guru's primary aspiration that he gave his devotees, which is to become, the maid of Sri Radha and experience her love for Sri Krishna and serve the divine couple and experience that most powerful experience of bliss and love possible to the conditioned soul, possible to any soul. That position is the highest possible attainment according to the Bhagavad, according to the Vedic scriptures, according to the teachings of our Goswamis. So that is our Gurudev's focus and how we go towards that. But first, there's a more general field. And that means we focus, we're not this body, we are spirit soul, we're not just male or female. We're not black, white, African, American, Indian, Chinese. That is all temporary conditioned states that change. Okay? But then if we aspire and we hear about Krishna, if we want to be with Krishna in Vrindavan, we don't just meditate on Krishna. Rupa Goswami teaches us you meditate on Krishna's associates and how they relate with Krishna. And if you focus on that, you can become in that company. You can enter into that association of Krishna with his associates. So what you focus on, you can become. And Rupa Goswami says, Krishna smaram janam chasya. Meditate on Krishna with his associates who are very near and dear to him. Gurudev would say like that, right? Near and dear. I'll have to get you some juice for class. Yes, not no. Your service is to give attention. It's a service to hear, and it keeps the class going. If everyone falls asleep, then class has to stop. So it's a service to stay awake, and whatever you need. You take some lemonade, you take anything. Okay? That's the service. You bring your glass of lemonade. Okay? So, what you focus on, you can become. Until you find a field, if you're interested in a particular thing, you find a guru or a school that can help teach that. But what is our focus here? And how do we get to that position? So Rupa Goswami said, don't just meditate on Krishna. That is not what he recommended. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is giving general knowledge and specialized knowledge and more layers of secret knowledge. There's 5 layers of mystical secret knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita. But he is not, people say, well, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna didn't say you can become a maidservant of Srimati Radhika. Where is that verse? Where is it said? Bhagavad Gita is a text for all Hindus. And it teaches you about the soul, it teaches you about God, it teaches you about the nature of this world, it teaches you how to do action in yoga, how to achieve knowledge in yoga, how to achieve devotion in yoga. And more is always revealed in that succession. Krishna is our Adi Guru, original Guru. And Krishna's own Guru is the goddess Sri Radha, the Guru of divine love. And in their lineage, the teaching is always expanding and giving us more and more specialized processes and means to go to our desired attainments. Yes? What do you desire? And so Rupa Goswami says, if you desire to enter the association of Krishna in Vrindavan, to have Krishna as a lover, to have Krishna as a son, to have Krishna as a friend, those 3 are distinct. So there's a different path to become a lover of Krishna. There's a different path to become a friend of Krishna. There's a different path to have Krishna as your son. They're all different paths. Those three paths exist within the same reality of Vrindavan, and those who enter those three paths and achieve the ultimate attainment through those three paths will all nourish the pastimes of the divine couple in their love. And also they will all receive the overwhelming bliss of Sri Krishna in their personal relationship. When Krishna sits amongst the circles of his friends and eats his lunch, every friend experiences like Krishna is sitting with them, speaking with them, feeding them by his hand, and they're feeding him by their hand. And so he can be in concentric circles of millions of associates, but he is the super soul, and he is interacting with each and every associate personally. I said this in class a few times now. God knows every soul's name. We are limited. We know 100 names, 200 names. As we advance, we know more and more and more names. I'm noticing it's like, oh, I just learned those 10 names, right? People come and you learn 6, 7 names and you remember them. And then this family and their kids and this family, and you collect names. But we're limited, we're conditioned. God is unlimited. He is the super soul in everyone's heart. He knows every soul's name. God knows your name. Someone asked me for a mantra, and as a Christian, I said, God loves you. No, God loves me. That's your mantra. God loves you. No, God loves me. I want a Christian mantra, but I don't like the churches I go to. Right? The churches I'm going to, I can't find one where they're truly passionate about just love for God and finding God. Many are there, so we'll find them. And we'll help people who want to achieve the goal of being with Christ, which is a path that you can attain by the practice of genuine, authentic Christianity. Okay? What do you think of, what you focus on, by the grace of God, you can achieve. That is the power of consciousness. That reality is real. It is more real and it is most real. And this is the dream state. This is the cosmic dream. We are changing states eternally, like one dream to another dream, to another dream, to another dream. And we're always in a stage of discovery because we're never satisfied. And so that is why it's considered a dream in conditioned life, because we're thinking of, I want to become a doctor, and we become a doctor, and it sucks. And it doesn't satisfy the soul. It pays the bills, doesn't fix your life, doesn't make you really happy for some time, perhaps. If you get a nice car and you get a nice wife that cheats on you, for a slightly more wealthy or attractive man. So, this is all Maya, illusion. And consciousness becomes focused on all these states. We'll go back to Bharat Maharaj. The great king entered the forest and meditated on God, but then he became attracted to a deer, and he focused on that deer. And at the time of death, he was completely focused on that deer. In his next life, he became a deer. The power of focus. Okay? The power of focus. And in that life as a deer, he had some knowledge of his past life because he'd come to a very high stage of spiritual life. Not like general practitioners. He'd come to the threshold of divine love of God, and so his consciousness was very heightened. But still, by that material attachment to that material form, his consciousness transferred to a form of matter that corresponded with his desire. Dear, 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 dear. Dear me. Our Guru would say, I'll give a funny example, not funny, but he said Sanskrit for meat means me eat me. Mang sa mung. That's Sanskrit for meat. Mang sa, mas in Hindi. But mang sa mum, that means what I eat, I become. So I'm always eating meat of animals, I become an animal that is eaten by other animals. That's what happens. My whole life, I'm eating flesh of animals. My next life, I become an animal that other animals, whether human or other predators, I don't care. That's not the point. All right? I'm eating a cow, then, I'm transferring my consciousness into that form. That's what happens. My whole body is just animal meat that I've taken. And so I become an animal. You want to become a human, eat humans. No.
My mind.
No. You want to become a demon, a rakshasa, eat humans. Human beings don't eat humans. Okay? But the point is, this is a very tamasic, gross, violent way of life. And the karmic reaction for that, there's karma and there's desire. I'm not putting karma aside. But in material life, there's karma and there's bondage to karma. But there's the power of consciousness and desire desire and karma are also intertwined. Does it make sense? Right? What you think, you feel, you will. All right? Thinking, feeling, willing. That's also called Gyan Bal Kriya. Knowledge, Gyan, Bal, will, Kriya, action. Right? This is Vedanta. What do you think of? You can will, you can become. This is the power of consciousness. So you're always thinking of, steak. You become someone else's steak. Mang sa sa mam. Me eat me. And then you're running through the forest and the tiger's chasing you and eating you. So anyhow, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yang vapi smaram bhavam tejatyante kalevaram tam tamivaiti kuntaya sadatad bhava bhavita. I said this in the beginning of the class. None of this is my idea. I'm just giving you a synthesis of our Vedic knowledge in our lineage about the process of spiritual development and the power of consciousness and power of focus. So Krishna says in the Gita, what you absorb your mind in, Yang vapi smaram bhavam, those forms that you meditate on, Tyajantyante kalevaram, when you give up this body, you will appear in a form that corresponds with your focus. And this is in the Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's an example of this. There are different stories of this. And the origin story of the Bhagavatam is this same story. It's the king Parikshit Maharaj who was cursed to die in 7 days. And he thought, what should a man do who knows he's going to die in 7 days? And so he renounced his kingdom. He sat on the bank of the river Ganga. He prayed to God for guidance. And the Lord inspired in the hearts of the sages to assemble for a discourse and for a practice, to figure out the best use of your time and the purpose of human life, the ultimate goal of life for one who knows he's going to die. We heard about it in the last lecture that the father of Jad Bharat, a great Brahmin, so this, I'm mixing a few Bhagavatam stories. Bharat became deer because of absorption in the deer. That deer life, he still had consciousness from his past life, so he went to the ashram and he didn't associate with other materialistic deer. And he took prasad, he took remnants of sacrifice, of pure offerings to God, and he waited to die while meditating on God. And he gave up that life, and then he was born as a Brahmin in an aristocratic family. And his father tried to train him since he was young, but he had ignored the studies because he had gone beyond the rules and regulations, which is meant to lead you to the state of absorption in God and bliss of God's love. He had already transcended that stage of requirement. And so his father would tell him to pass stool and then bathe. And he would bathe and then pass stool. Every time. He would try to teach him how to chant the Brahma Gayatri, and he would butcher it every time. And for years and years and years, his father tried to train him. But he played dumb his whole life until there's a famous story, 4 chapters of his teachings to the king Rahugana, we're not going to get into today. But he played dumb. And his father, there's a verse in the Bhagavatam, his father tried for years to train him, and he played the village idiot. And His father, it said in one verse, his father forgot death, but death did not forget him. His father forgot death. All his mantras, all his Brahminical rituals and rites did not save him. That's why Adi Sankar, incarnation of Lord Shiva, said, worship Krishna, worship Krishna, worship Krishna, O you fool. At the time of death, all your grammatical learning and knowledge of dukrin karane, conjunctions, and people spend 12 years learning Sanskrit grammar, and their consciousness is filled with, if I do this conjunction with this conjunction, and that conjunction, this conjunction, then I can make this. And I can write things, and people will respect me because I am a Sanskrit scholar. And those are good fields of study. But something, this is a very interesting thing. I'm trying to give you the wealth of the knowledge of our line. My mentor told me many years ago, probably at this point, like 19 years ago, he said, be careful that what you master doesn't become your master. Does it make sense? Yeah. He said, don't try to become the best mridanga player, because that mridanga will be your God. Don't try to become the best singer, because that singing will become your God. Don't try to become the best of this, the best of that. Only try to be a devotee of God and serve and love God. And then you can learn all these things as service to God. Because otherwise, what you think you will master, you become the slave of it. For 20 years, you're trying to become the best doctor, and then the whole life you're lamenting, oh, I wasted 20 years of my life becoming the best doctor. For 20 years of my life, I became the best mridanga player on earth, and that was my designation. I am the best mridanga player. I am the best singer. I am the best this, that, whatever the hell nonsense. Which is binding you to life after life of pride and position and prestige and honor as the best mridanga player. As the best singer. The best one at doing the chamra and arti. Our guru came to the West, and one of his first tours, his lectures, he said, Krishna doesn't want you to wave the fan for 30 minutes. Krishna doesn't want you to wave the ghee lamp for 20 minutes. He's hungry, he wants to eat, and he wants to go dance with Radharani. So you do it as a service according to the proper amount, not too fast, not too slow, just proper according to your lineage's teachings, with the right intention or mood to develop love of God through that process, and you don't become the slave of that ritual. So Jad Bharat transcended the ritual because he realized the bliss of love of God and that everything in this world is temporary. So his father forgot death, lost in ritual, but death did not forget him, and he gave up his life. And we'll continue the Jad Bharat story later. It's an amazing story. We'll continue it later, what his life led to, how he achieved liberation, how by focus on God and his associates he achieved the form in the pastimes of God by the power of his focus and his desire and the grace of God and the grace of Guru. What you focus on, you can become. What you desire, you can become. This is Krishna's teaching in the Bhagavad Gita. This is the teaching of the Bhagavatam. This is the teaching of our Vedic scriptures. This is the essential teaching. And also, this is the proper course of spiritual evolution, which is natural to the soul. It is the natural conclusion of the spiritual evolution of the soul we're trying out every form. There's 8,400,000 species of life. Why? Because we're trying out every one. Is the perfection of being to be an ant? Is the perfection of being, what's it like to be, you see people always wanting to fly. Our Swami Prabhupada would say, people who their whole life are absorbed in motorcycles become bumblebees. Especially like low rider. They turn it on, they just love it, you kickstart. And bees like to fly together, right? So what do? They got their heart, the Hell's Angels. Hundreds of them. Low rider. Bzz, and if anyone insults them, all the bees gather together. Low rider. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure. Born to be wild. Right? Swami Prabhupada joked. Is it a joke? But he would say, oh, next life, bumblebee. Because it's a cool life. You think, being a bumblebee is kind of cool. Not only that, this is in the Bhagavatam, says those who are addicted to sex, they can become pigeons 20 times a day. Doesn't Gurudev say like that? 20 times a day. And you get more and more energy and you're happy. Woo! Bzz, woo! Bzz. How do you do the pigeon voice? Harimo! All right. So you try out every form, but it's just sense pleasure. It's not soul pleasure. So you're trying out all these forms and you're thinking it'll make you happy, but it's just serving your senses. Serving your senses. Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, we were talking about this yesterday with a friend. Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj says that the soul in the conditioned state is like a miner. This is an example he gives. And I was talking about this with my friend yesterday. So the soul in the conditioned state is like a miner. And he has a great estate that he's supposed to inherit. Very wealthy, but he's a miner. And then all his friends and his guardians are cheating him and extracting his estate for their own pleasure. And that is the senses. And the demigods, the masters of the senses who enjoy through the bodies of men are using us to fulfill their desires, and the senses senses are inert, unconscious. But the lords of the senses, the deities, they want to enjoy through you. And you are that miner, the soul in the conditioned state, and it is your wealth, of your inheritance, but you think the purpose of life is just enjoying my senses. Prahlad Maharaj said, scratching an itch, no real pleasure, only slight sensation of, enjoyment and slight relief from misery. Alcohol, slight relief from misery, drugs, slight experience of chemical bliss, but not spiritual bliss, chemical bliss. It's not spiritual bliss. It's just the chemicals, just the brain producing these chemicals, DMT, whatever kind of drug you want. It's just like activating. Why? What you focus on, you can become. Okay, I focus on speed. So I'm going to activate that potentiality by this external element, this focus, and whatever drug it is. I don't know so much about drugs. I've never done it. But this is what I've heard a little bit. So the point is, these are all temporary forms. What is eternal form? What is eternal bliss? What is eternal relationship? Right? Parikshit Maharaj, the king who was cursed to die in 7 days, said, what is the purpose of life for someone who knows he's going to die? What should he do? What is the ultimate attainment? He sat down on the bank of the river Ganga and prayed to God, and God appeared in the hearts of the sages, and they all assembled. And then the enlightened one, Sukadev Goswami, who is completely devoid of material desires, truly enlightened being, he arrived in the assembly and began to give his thesis of the purpose of human life. What is the thesis? Savai pungsam paro dharma yato bhakti radoksaje ahaitukiya pratyatha yatma suprasiddhiti. What does it mean to have spontaneous love and bliss in a relationship with God? Causeless, unmotivated, abundant, all bliss. What is that nature? And by the course of his practice of the teachings of his guru, Sukadev Goswami, before his body was given up, he already had transferred his consciousness into his spiritual form. This is how it's described. He was cursed to be killed by a snake, a fire-breathing snake. He was cursed. And at the end of the 7 days of recitation, there's a whole story about this, but it's a lot of details. But the snake came. People were trying to avert this. People were trying to plot, how can we protect him from the snake coming? But he wasn't worried about it. He knew that ultimately everyone will die. He did not forget death. Because even if I avert this curse, doesn't mean I won't die. Right? Because that's the nature of material conditioned states. They end. Temporary material states end. This life will end. But if you transfer your consciousness into the reality of God's nature, then that eternal state is beyond matter. It does not have to be temporary like our states. That means the consciousness exists on a continuum. Forms may change in the spiritual world. This is a very interesting, long discussion that we cannot finish here. But it does not mean, oh, you cannot have this form, you cannot have that form, but your consciousness is on a continuum of bliss in a relationship with God, an experience of ecstasy. Okay? On a spiritual dimension where even if you enter this material dimension with God in His incarnation, you don't suffer like you do when you're attached to matter and bound by matter and attached to material objects. Your attachment is with God and you've achieved the divine nature. Okay? We have some deep breaths going on here. Yes? So, we absorb our mind on what? Now, it's up to you to determine what you desire. But you know our field of study here, and we don't have time in this class to go into the essential details of the practice of our field of study. We've done classes about it before. If you're interested, you can watch our 100 videos on Vilap Kusumanjali. I think 120, I don't even know how many. We spoke about it. Vilap Kusumanjali, and we'll speak about many things. We have to give these general fields, we have to give specialized field, we have to lead people to understanding, then we have to encourage people into the practice that can lead to the realization of that wisdom and to that spiritual experience, and then to ultimately taste that bliss of pure love of God. We have to do that process, right? That's necessary. But first we have to understand. So Parikshit Maharaj, before that snake came and finished his material body, our teachers, right? Gurudev would say that he had already achieved his Swarup Siddhi. That means the realization of the spiritual form even within this body. So while the soul remains in this body, our goal of our practice is to realize our perfected spiritual state, our perfected spiritual nature and form through the progression of devotion, bhakti, in its different stages. And when that is done, then when this material body is discarded due to the natural course of material life, then the spiritual state is entered. And so this great king Parikshit Maharaj entered the spiritual consciousness and spiritual state, realization of the spiritual form, entrance into the spiritual dimension through the channel of his heart, consciousness. And material body at that point is the dream that you wake up from. Does it make sense? At that point, the material body is the dream that you wake up from into the reality that you have focused on by the grace of God and by your desire. Is it real? Those who have realized it know it's real. They have spoken of this. Our teachers live in that reality. And this reality is the dream that they serve in to help people wake up. Okay? And practice is the proof. So you dedicate yourself to it as a scientist. Don't accept a theory, perform the practice. And you will gradually evolve, just as the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. It takes one form of food to evolve into a different state. What is that? Example, Jad Bharat had evolved. He was already on a higher stage. He wasn't in the caterpillar stage, so he didn't have to follow the rituals, didn't follow the practice, didn't follow Ekadashi, right? I don't know exactly about that detail, but there's a reason for the rules and regulations. Accept your position. What am I? I am a caterpillar. I need to eat this food and that food and do this and do that to have my metamorphosis. But the practice is you're giving the power to the soul to actually go through that metamorphosis. And so within your physical body, that within that tree of life that is your body, there is the spiritual particle of consciousness that you are feeding. And you're also purifying your body, and you're also purifying through Diksha. Diksha, the spiritual initiation process, is twofold. Get rid of unwanted things, achieve purified consciousness, and also feed my soul. So one is purificatory processes. One is soul nourishment. Okay? Nourish your soul. So I'm going long here, and we can do it into two parts on our YouTube. But this is my last class here for the next week. So this is your practice. Try to remember this so that we don't just skip ahead. Oh, I'm in another class in an hour, and then another class in an hour. You're just eating, but not digesting. Okay? So don't just eat and not digest. Learn to digest. And then learn to practice. The purpose of the wisdom is to lead you to the practice, which leads you to the experience. So just as important as the understanding is the practice that leads you to the experience. So therefore, I request people to sit down and chant. The name of God is His grace, in which He has invested all of His potency to awaken you into your spiritual nature. So you chant that name, and that transcendental substance enters into your soul by His power, and gives you the strength to focus on God, and also gives you the natural purification. So you focus on the name of God. And as we progress and you become more and more purified, you realize I am not body, I'm spirit. And as you continue, realize what is the nature of my spirit? What is the name of my soul? And then you focus more. And then you gradually develop a specific inclination as you learn about the nature of the spiritual reality, and as you focus on that spiritual reality, and then you develop more and more specialized attraction. There's many things to talk about here. Many things. What is the purpose? What is the nature? What does it mean to please God and to serve God and to be in a devotional relationship of love with God? What does that mean? What is that nature? And it goes higher and higher and higher. You think once you get to love, that's it. Then there's Man, Pranay, Rag, Anurag, Dhira, Adhira, Ruddha, Adiruddha, Bhav, Mahabhav, right? Madanakya Mahabhav. And then, you want to experience what is that? That is only for Srimati Radhika. You want to experience that. What does it mean to become her? Manjari, maid. But this is not our topic here. This is just, I'm saying we are a specific school here. We can provide general knowledge, general practices, general understanding, but our specific field of focus is the field of focus of our Guru. It is his mission. I am, and we are servants of him and his line and his understanding, but also this is for everyone. I'll give you one example in brief. One person, many people, but someone approached our Guru and they said, I am a devotee of Ram. Please help me achieve Ram. And he gave them Ram mantra and he said, yes, I see you. You are an associate of Ram, and if you practice spiritual life in this way, you can enter the eternal abode of Lord Ram. And that is the state of perfection for you. That is the state of a complete bliss for you. And we saw the same thing in the life of Lord Chaitanya. He had a specific focus and a specific desire, but he still facilitated all souls in all their desires for attainment of the bliss of pure love of God. So that is also our process. So that's why I'm giving you a general understanding. But within the realm of Vrindavan, which is our specific general field of desire, right? If you want to enter that realm of Vrindavan, you meditate upon Krishna with his associates. Krishna smaram janam chasya. You meditate on the pastimes of God in his realm of sweetness and love. This is your practice. Along with the purificatory practices, along with the rules and regulations of spiritual life, but you meditate on Krishna's pastimes. And that is what Sukadeva Goswami told Parikshit Maharaj. He said, you can endeavor for many lifetimes to try to uproot your material desires from your heart without success. Because that habit has been perfected. Your habit of material desires and fulfilling them through your focus has been perfected through millions of lifetimes of practice. Practice makes perfect. And so you've become perfect in the practice of enjoying your senses in material forms. And that manifests as attachment and bondage of the heart, which is lust for material things. And so how can you extricate yourself from that conditioning? By a mere process of negation. Not possible. And also, even if you could, it does not have the power to transfer your consciousness into the spiritual dimension. That's by the grace of God and by your focus. Okay? So therefore, Sukadeva Goswami said the best method is meditate on the pastimes of Krishna if you aspire to enter his realm of Vrindavan. Vikriditam brajavidubiridam cha Vishnu shradhanvito anusuyat atavarnayadya bhakting parang bhagavati pratilabhya kamam hridrogam apu achrinoti achirena dhira. This verse corresponds to the second verse of the Bhagavatam. After he describes the nature of God, the origin of creation, maintenance and devastation, and the changes of this material universes, after he describes that even the demigods are bewildered by the nature of God, and that we should meditate upon that supreme absolute truth. After that, he talks about false religion, cheating religion, and real religion, and that by meditation on God, sadhya hridyo varudyate kritibi shrushrushvi tatshanat, very quickly you can achieve the divine state. That means within one life. That is very quick. Within one life, you can achieve that divine state. And therefore, in the 10th canto, in the chapters describing Krishna's rasa dance, it said, if you meditate upon Krishna's pastimes with his associates that are pure love, it can attract your heart to that. And you meditate on Krishna's associates. Krishna smaram janam chasya, madhyashoda, the cowherd boys. You meditate on Krishna. That is the perfect reality. That is the perfect community. Everyone's looking for perfect community. Where is the perfect place to be? Right? Everyone's looking for perfect community. God has perfected that search, and it's called Vrindavan. Okay? Krishna has perfected the search for the perfect community for himself. That is called Vrindavan. Everyone's searching where to be. Krishna is searching. Where should I live? Where should I be? Where should I reside? Okay, what's my eternal home? What's the best place to live, to be happy forever? Krishna himself is on that search. And therefore he says, I do not reside in the hearts of the yogis. I do not reside even in Vaikuntha, my abode of majesty and opulence. I abide in the hearts of my devotees who are singing the glories of my sweet pastimes in Vrindavan. Mad Bhakta yatra gayanti tatra tishtami Narada. O great sage Narada, I reside where my devotees are speaking the glories of my eternal Vrindavan. Because that is the perfect community that is manifested by my desire for pure love with my own eternal associates beyond matter, beyond material desires. Krishna has perfected. He has a perfected community that everyone's looking for community. And where to start a community and where to be in a community. And it said we're searching and searching and searching. The best place to be is where there is the lover of God present, who is bringing us to love of God. And Krishna says, I reside in that heart, and that heart is Vrindavan. And so that perfect spiritual community appears in the heart of the devotee, who is a perfected love of God. That is Swarup Siddhi. They've realized by absorption, by focus on Krishna's pastimes with his associates in the land of Vrindavan, that land of Vrindavan manifests in their heart, and they live within that realm. And when this material body, if they are a liberated soul, their material body is not material. It's a play, it's a drama. But if they're a practitioner evolving, going through their metamorphosis, then that land of Vrindavan, that perfect community appears within their heart. And where they travel, they encourage people to enter that realm. That's our Swami Prabhupada. That's our Srila Gurudev. They encourage that. They encourage that. And they carry that realm within them. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said, I never went to Calcutta. I was always in Vrindavan. But I went to Calcutta to help people there come to Vrindavan. And so therefore, Tomara Hridhay Govinda Vishram, within your heart, the Lord rests in his eternal abode of Vrindavan. Govinda kahena mama Vaishnava paran. Therefore, Krishna says, the Vaishnavas are my heart and soul. I reside within their heart. He says, Sadhavo hridayam mayam. The sadhus are my heart. Sadhavo hridayam mayam, sadhavo hridayam taham, maranyatena jananti naham tebhyo manasapi. I know no one but them, they know no one but me. I reside in their heart. That is Vrindavan on this earth. You want to go to Vrindavan? Find the sadhu who is living in Vrindavan, in their heart. And associate and practice and gradually transfer your consciousness into the spiritual state by grace, by prayer, by the 9 limbs of devotion, by the 64 limbs of devotion, according to guidance. No, you don't need to do the 63 rituals. Focus on the one ritual, chanting the name of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. By the power of the name of God, all your other activities will be perfected. Then you can do all the other rituals. But don't forget the chanting of the name of God. And in our line, not just the name of Krishna, but the name of Krishna with his divine eternal counterhold, the goddess Shri Radha, and all their associates. And that, all of their associates are included within the Mahamantra. So if you desire the perfection of entering the perfect community of Krishna in Vrindavan as his cowherd friend, then you chant the Mahamantra. And all the associates are included within that. If you desire in parental ras, Krishna is your son, Krishna is your friend, Krishna is your lover, you chant that same mantra. And that same mantra is Krishna Smaram Janam Chasya. And ultimately, as you become qualified, you not only chant the mantra, but you meditate on the pastimes of Krishna with his associates. And the power of the name has the power to awaken your soul into divine consciousness if you focus on it and you desire it. And then in this very life, you can achieve that stage, Swarup Siddhi. Vanchakalpatribhista kripa sindhubheva cha patitanang pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna. Please accept my Dandava pranams.